What's up, guys? This is JZNES back again with another review. Today we've got Link's Awakening on the Switch, the new remake of Link's Awakening. Well, it's not new now, but it was new a few months ago. Wasn't it new last year? At least came out last year, right? I'm not crazy. Didn't spend too long waiting to get to it. I just didn't want to really spend $60 on it because it's a remake of Link's Awakening, which is a game that I have played pretty extensively. It's kind of one of those games where Link's Awakening means a lot to me because it is one of my favorite games alongside Majora's Mask, of which shirt I am wearing. Because Link's Awakening to me is one of the first games that ever really got me super invested in gaming. I was really astounded by it back in the day. Because I just have this vivid memory of seeing it one time. We're on like a road trip or something, and my brother had brought along his big like brick Game Boy, and so it was in black and white. But I remember the first time I ever kind of played it, and I was just like, and I would watch him play it and stuff as well as I could, you know, because the screen's kind of hard to see, especially when it's like a sunny day or whatever. But God, it just was so epic. It was such a like there was so much to explore and so much to see, especially for, you know, a little kid back then. Like it was just insane. You know, and even now it's still pretty open in the sense that there's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of extras to find and whatnot. It's a pretty short game by modern standards, but I mean, I don't know. I put 20 hours in 100%ing it, and I'm actually really like, I'm not really good at the game or whatever. I'm pretty decent at the game, you know. I've only ever beaten it like once or twice fully through. So a game I started more so than I actually had ever like beat it or whatever. So, but yeah, I mean, later on when I got my Game Boy Color, so I have that memory, you know, of Link's Awakening and how epic it was and whatnot. And then later on when I got my Game Boy Color, it must have been like the third or fourth game that I bought for it would have been Link's Awakening. I mean, I don't believe I probably bought it for myself, but um, point is, it was Pokemon and it was Dragon Warrior, and then I was trying to think like what other games to get, and Link's Awakening was definitely like on top of the list because, uh, you know, I just had such a fond memory of it, and it, it was my first Zelda game if you think about it. I mean, that's pretty major. I think by that point, when I actually re-got the game and everything, I would have watched somebody play Ocarina of Time. I don't know if I would have. I don't think I would have had played through it myself at that point, but you know, and I didn't really know about the other ones. I wouldn't say so. I would say that those were the two Zelda games to me for such a long time, and I didn't even really connect to them in my mind. But then I'm like, yeah, Zelda, right? Link's Awakening, man, that was like such an epic game. So throughout my childhood, this was like one of my favorite games. I carried it in very high regards in terms of games. I never really beat it back then. I didn't beat it until I was in high school, I believe. Pretty sure that's correct. When I went on a bend to kind of try to finish all of the Zelda games, which I did end up doing like at the time, other than like Spirit Tracks and stuff. Um, but yeah, up until that point, I finished all of the Zelda games. I think one of the last ones was Zelda 2, but this was one of the earlier ones in that kind of inspired me to go through the whole series as Link's Awakening. So I just want to kind of talk about that because the game means a lot to me in terms of it's a game that got me really hyped about video gaming in general. Like before this, it was like NES games and stuff, and like I'd probably played some Super Nintendo games and that kind of thing. Heck, probably even PlayStation. I mean, I don't know when I necessarily would have first played this game. Must have been like 97, 98, maybe 96. I don't know. Let's see. So it would have been like 4 or 5. I don't know. Yeah, probably around then when I first saw the game. So and it kept a lasting impact on me until a few years later when I actually got my own Game Boy and was able to go back and collect it myself. My point is, this along with games like Tomba were very formative to my in Metal Gear Solid 1. formative to my taste in video games. They really defined for me what what a video game could be, how epic video games could be. So, those were 3 games, and they're still in my top 10 games because of that reason, because that's what they mean to me, is kind of the whole, just, the fact that they got me so heavily invested into games and whatnot. Before that, games were cool, and they were not that, they were cool to me, and I liked games, but they weren't meaningful yet. Those are 3 games where games became like super meaningful to me, and I formed really lasting memories with them, kind of thing. So they're games that I can think on back now and just think like, man, these are really good memories that I have with these games. So that's what Link's Awakening is to me. It's probably like if we're talking childhood games, it's probably like the 3rd or 2nd or something most influential game to me, gaming wise. And it could potentially, I mean, if we're just talking like purely influential without any of my unbiased, without any of my like opinions thrown in there or whatever, it could be the most influential game that I've played, because it got me to learn about Zelda. It got me really hyped for games. My point is, I don't think at this point I had Tomba. I don't even know if it would have been out yet, based on whenever the time frame of this was. But like, this is like one of the first games that was like, holy shit, like, this was this is really impactful to my young self. So yeah, just so it meant a lot to me. God, this keeps falling. Whatever, I'll show it later. It meant a lot to me that this game was getting remade for the Switch here. And I kind of had gotten spoiled for it just before that direct. Somebody had said something about it, or I saw like a thumbnail of it or something. I'm like, God damn it. Then they put it at the end of the direct, and I'm just like waiting the whole time, like, okay, when are they going to show it? And when I saw it, my reactions were mixed. And I mean, I'm kind of over it now, but like the art style at the time it looked too cutesy to me, and it looked too like Kirby-esque or something. Especially like what got me was the rolling boss, like not rolling, but he rolls the big spiked bar thing from like the first dungeon and whatever. This is the first dungeon, right? Yeah, he's in the first dungeon because that's where you get Rock's Feather. So what got me was when I saw him, and I'm like, oh, this is too cutesy. Like, what the fuck are they doing to Link's Awakening here? And I will argue that I mean, I guess I'm just, well, let's talk about my initial reactions first. And then there was that song, the music. It's actually the title theme of the game, and I thought it was going to be the overworld theme of the game, and that little like pan flute or whatever the fuck it is in there. That really bothered me, and I'm like, God, they're really going for the wrong angle here. The whole point of the game wasn't that it was cutesy. It was it was interesting. It was unique. It was out there. It was dreamlike. It wasn't necessarily cutesy. Yeah, the characters were cute because they were 8-bit. Lots of characters in 8-bit are cute or whatnot, I guess. But that wasn't necessarily the style that... I mean, there were certain art bits in the game that kind of went for that cutesy style. But I'm just saying, to me, that's not really what Link's Awakening was about. So I was a little turned off initially, slightly. But I was interested in obviously playing the game because it's a remake of Link's Awakening, one of my favorite games. It's not really a remake in a sense. It's more of a remaster, if anything. They just kind of... I know they had to remake the assets of the world and whatnot, but it's the same exact world, fully integrated with like a few more things. They switched a few things around, and I'm pretty sure, and then they added the dungeon making mechanic in there. But essentially, if you play this game, if you've played Link's Awakening on the Game Boy, you've played this game. They did now that they have more buttons instead of just 2 buttons. I mean, this never really bothered me. I think it might bother me now if I go back to the original. So this is a good change. One of the most drastic changes that they made was to add the sword button, and there's a shield button, and then so the sword button is A or B or whatever, and then the shield button is R, and then the L button is actually for the Pegasus boots now, which is really helpful. And the picking up bracelet is the power bracelet or whatever is now context sensitive, which is really really helpful. So I can see to a lot of people those changes being, you know, like life or death on the original kind of thing. So they definitely want to play the remake if those things bothered you about the original. It's kind of like a lot of people in the water temple, and I agree to a certain extent about the water temple and the boots, the iron boots, having to equip those and unequip those and all that. But gameplay wise, it's about the same. A little bit more polished though. You have those extra spaces for your buttons, which is really pretty nice. Some of the jumping is still kind of imprecise, or it's just kind of really tricky to do and stuff, but it's not really that's more the design of the world than anything, I would say, and the design of the dungeons and stuff. But overall, I would say that the gameplay was improved for the most part. I would say that my one kind of little complaint overall, and this is pretty much my one complaint on the whole thing, is that, and this isn't a very good example. If you can hear the music, 'cause I put it there to hopefully you can hear it, but not this song. This song is great. Marin's, the lullaby, the windfish thing, that's great. All that's really well done. Just a few little instrumental things like the little flute in the opening thing, and God, I don't think the owl one bothered me later, but there's some like little thing that they put in his song too that just like it just felt like they were trying like way too hard with the music. Like, I get it, make it orchestral, and there are some great examples of that, like Tall Tall Mountains. Man, that shit is like better than the original, which is like impossible to do because the original is such a jam. And I mean, I still, oh, it's so hard. I don't even know which one I would like better at this point. I'd have to listen to them side by side kind of thing. But yeah, there were just little tweaks like that it was just little musical things here and there that kind of bothered me. Some of the instruments sounded weird and dumb now this time around, but a lot of them sounded like a lot better, which is great. I mean, I'm just so nostalgic about the original sounds of this game. I didn't really think I was so much, but definitely playing the game, I felt the differences in the sounds overall. Is this the other one? What the other? Oh, no, this isn't it. But the other one is when you have to go and rescue Bow Wow, the chain chomp or whatever. The urgent music for that or whatever. Really, that was pretty terrible. But that's only one little part of the game. I was really turned off by that music. That music was pretty bad. They added something in there that was just really unnecessary. I don't remember what it was, but it was just really bad. I remember that one being pretty bad. But other than that, there was some, like, since we're talking about the music, there was some really good, like, dungeon remixes. The water dungeon or whatever, I thought that was, like, really well done. It was, like, very dreamlike. Is this it? No, this is a boss thing. This was good. Okay, so anyway, the fourth dungeon or whatever that was is really dreamlike, and I thought that was really a nice touch in adding that in. So they really did a good job with like the dungeon music, and the overworld music was not the one with the little flute or whatever. They actually went for the correct way of doing it, which is great, and it sounds pretty good overall. I mean, you gotta think. I have such a nostalgic attachment to this music because this was the first Zelda music that I heard. This was the first time I heard the Zelda theme, was that overworld theme. I didn't even know it was the Zelda theme at that point. It was just the overworld theme, and I'm like, this is so epic. This is like the coolest theme ever. And I wasn't even that attached to like music back then or whatever, but like, geez, like I knew back then, like this is some good shit, this music. So, it's kind of a make or break. It's kind of like Pokemon Let's Go. I think Let's Go did just a slightly better job of remixing their themes overall. But I knew if they didn't do my main thing with Let's Go is like if they don't get Lavender Town right, then I'm just done. Like this isn't like I'm really on edge until Lavender Town. And when I got to Lavender Town and I heard the music and I heard how they did it, oh, this is it. Oh, it's so awful. Listen to that. That's terrible. It's like, that's awful. What the fuck are you guys thinking? That was awful. Get that shit out of here. God, so terrible. But anyway, so in Let's Go, the Lavender Town theme, they definitely nailed it. It was in the theme of the town was also good too. I'm glad that they kept the certain feeling that aura, and they didn't just make it, they didn't, wash it all out like they did in Generation 2 and beyond, like, oh, Lavender Town's happy now, there's a radio tower, you don't have to worry about Pokemon and death and all of that. And no, but they definitely fucking made it happen. And so my point with that is that this remake, whereas there's little subtle bad ones like the one that we just listened to a minute ago, but overall, like, it's very well done and well remixed, which is kind of a deal breaker for me if it was not well done or well remixed. And at the beginning, I was kind of on edge, and a few of the songs, even the main town, just kind of, I thought, oh, they're trying too hard, but I got used to that one. I liked that one after a while. I liked the Endure theme, of course, and just all of the themes are great, I think, for the most part. So the music is a plus for me. I think that's good. They did good with that. They actually lived up to my standards there, minus a few little bad ones. So that was really important to me, is my point. Now, like I said, the gameplay is a bit improved. The graphical style, I was talking about that in my initial impressions. I think that the graphical style of the game, I'm fine with now. I think it actually looks pretty good. I'm always going to be a little bit more nostalgic, obviously, for the old 8-bit style. 8-bit, means a lot to me. I have a whole fucking NES collection. I'm collecting Game Boy, as you can see. So it kind of means a lot to me, 8-bit. So I'm always going to like that art style quite a bit. It's a really good-looking game for 8-bit. It's a very distinctive style, but they did a good job with reincorporating a lot of that. I don't think this is the art style I would have chosen. I would have just chose to make it more like, I don't know, like it was in the artwork or something. Just like kind of less little toy-like or whatever. I mean, that was fine. That worked out in the end. That was nice and it was all good, but like, I would have preferred to have seen in this one particular instance, because every time anything like this ever comes up, I'm like, oh, these games look too real. I hate this shit. They're just trying for realism now, and they're never stylized, and I'm always like, just stylize it. But this is like one time where I'd be like, well, if it looked a little bit more realistic, not like super realistic or anything, that would be stupid, but just like, I don't know, just like, I don't know how to describe it. It just could have, I would, initially I wasn't the biggest fan of the art style, but I got over it. It's pretty good. It looks nice. I will say it didn't bother me near the end there, because I think my eyes just kind of fucking adjusted to it. But god damn it, what the hell was with that motion blur? If you're gonna do that, just because you have to integrate the whole world, the edges of the screen with the motion blur, I hated that shit. I didn't even know if there was an option to turn that off, because I couldn't find any options. It was like one of the first things I kind of tried to dig through the game to try to find was an option to turn off the goddamn motion blur, because that was awful. It was so terrible. And I was very distracted by that for the first, how many hours of the game. I guess I adjusted to it eventually. But honestly, if they were going to have done that, I would have just preferred the single screen formats like in the original game and have it scroll or whatever. If they had to do that, that would have been more nostalgic. It would have really been better than the motion blur. But they did do good at integrating one big, world. I thought that was good. I just really hated that motion blur. It was just so bad on the edges. That was so, awful. I don't know why they did that. It just looked so terrible. I don't prefer that at all. I think that's probably the biggest strike against the game is that. But obviously my eyes adjusted to it over time. It wasn't a big deal, but at first I was like, this is really bad. They shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't have done this at all. And I still think they shouldn't have done it, but still. Yeah, but overall it's really good though. I would say, I don't know, what else is there to talk about? So the art style, I liked it well enough. I think the 8-bit style has its own charm, and it might be the more charming version of the game, style-wise. But yeah, I don't mind that they went this direction with it. Actually, I guess I can just talk about it now, but I was gonna mention this when I was talking about the originals and my kind of memories with them and whatever, but I'll show off my cartridges. So this isn't the original cart. I have a lot of my original boxes and whatever. I never actually had this game in box, but this is a cart that I ended up buying. This probably is the one from high school, that I played when I rebought it then. So pretty sure that's this one. So I have had it for a while, for almost 10 years now. So, well, probably 10 years now. It would have been early high school, so it probably would have been more 13 or 14 years I've actually had this, which is funny because it's shit, it's about as long as, I probably knew about the game. I've had this cartridge, as a kid, until I got this cartridge, I knew about the game less time than it's been since, I actually got that cartridge. Also, I picked this up at Portland Retro Gaming Expo a few years ago. It was $1 or $2, which is really cool. It's the Japanese art version, which is really cool. I also got the one for Dragon Quest, Dragon Warrior Monsters 2, which is another really nostalgic game from my childhood. So, and then the other cool thing was, so back in the day, I'm gonna end with that. I'll talk about those in a minute here. We'll just let those loom there. So, okay, let's see. So the art style was fine. The music was good. The gameplay was a little bit improved. I think that was all well and good. Let's just talk about the game now. So, those are the changes. Those are the remake isms or whatever. But I don't really know. It's one of these games where it's just so hard to talk about because... Oh, here it is. This is good. This is really good. They did a really good job with this one. This one is great. But anyway, so this is one of these games where I just don't know how to really talk about it. It's just what can I even say about it, kind of thing. It's so cliche to say that. I hate it when people say that. It's what is there to say that hasn't been said already? It's I don't know, whatever the fuck you're going to say might not have been said already. I just want to hear it, So, it's just if I talk about Tomba, I think I could talk about more about Tomba, though, because there's just so interesting things that happen there. I could talk about Metal Gear for hours. I did a whole big, long video about Metal Gear, so, but... Link's Awakening is one of those games where it's just kind of hard to talk about, especially without spoiling it. I don't know. Is the limitations, the statute of limitations on this, is this over? Can we actually just talk about spoilers for Link's Awakening without anybody caring? Everyone knows already, right? I don't know. But I think that it's cool. It's just it's a really cool game gameplay wise. Like the whole the adventure of the game is really well laid out. So like you start off and you are you know you're just on an adventure. You wake up and there's two of the main characters right there. I mean, there's not like that many main characters in this game. It's kind of just you're on an adventure sort of thing. But it's cool that they're there, and then it's like they're there and they're like, hey, here's a shield. Go to go to the beach and go find your sword or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, fucking A, let's go do that. And I remember as a kid just trying to like get around and like just even trying to do the beach part was kind of hard because I didn't realize how you could use your shield. And then I realized you can use your shield to push the little spiky guys so then you can get past them to go and get the sword. And that was a really big realization. I always thought that was like, I know, so such a primitive thing now, but so many Zelda games have done shit like that now, but there was nothing like that at the time for Zelda, like Zelda never did something like that before when Link's Awakening came out, It was just, well, I won't say that. Maybe Link to the Past had done it, but I hadn't played Link to the Past at that point. 1 and 2, and then Link to the Past. Those were the only 3 games we had, and then this game comes out and is like, just revolutionizes everything. It's like, it's crazy. This is the first game where you get, well, I mean, Link to the Past, you get the, it's not technically called the Ocarina in Link to the Past, it's just a flute or whatever in Link to the Past. But this is the first game where they introduce it as the Ocarina. You get the Ocarina in this game, and you play different melodies to do things, and that's a really essential and important part of the game, is you're going around trying to collect these melodies like Earthbound or something. I think, well, Mother 1 did it first, so Link's Awakening actually probably took it from there. But, because you do the same thing with your Soundstone in Mother 1 or whatever, and in Earthbound, which came later, obviously. But Link's Awakening, well, did Earthbound come later? What do you think? Yeah, I think so. It's like 94, right? This is like, I don't know when this came out. I don't know. Maybe Earthbound did come first. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. It's late. I can't think right now. But anyway, so the thing is about that. I'm trying to think. What's I even talking about? Now I'm distracted. Okay, you're distracting me. Let's see. What was I talking about? It's too epic. I just am listening to the music and I'm just like, holy fuck, this is awesome. So yeah, I mean, there's this like good sense of adventure there, and it just there's so many series firsts here, and there's series things that didn't go on to other games, other than the sequel Game Boy games, which I'll get to here in a second, but. Like Rock's Feather, the first item that you get in the game, that's like an item that you get in a dungeon, you know what I'm saying? The first item is an item that they like would barely ever use again in Zelda history. Like, you never jump. You don't jump in other Zelda games for the most part. I mean, I think obviously Breath of the Wild and stuff, but like it took them that long to do it, and they did that on an 8-bit Game Boy system. There was like platforming elements in there. It was just crazy. It's like, what the fuck? Like, what's this shit? And it works super well. I mean, it works with the Pegasus boots and shit, and you kind of like combine different items to make stuff, bomb arrows and stuff. Like, that's a thing. This game was so innovative with little gameplay things like that, man. It was just crazy. It's like they had like the crane game, like that was cool. Like, I don't know if they ever did that in any other Zelda game other than the Oracle games. I don't even know if they did the crane game in the Oracle games though. That was cool. It's a little distraction thing. They had a whole trading side quest. That was the first trading side quest as far as I remember. Oh, this is the one. This is the really nicely remixed level 4 or whatever. Was there a trading sequence in Link to the Past? I don't honestly remember. I think there might have been like a slight one. This is like the first time it was like the real Zelda trading sequence. And it's like integral to the game. Not to spoil anything, but you kind of have to do it in order to like get through the game, I'm pretty sure. What is this? Oh, this is one of the songs. This is when they teach it to you. I remember this. This is good. there's just so much charm to Link's Awakening, and the thing I like about it is it's the perfect amount. This is like the perfect model. You know, a Game Boy game from the '90s, like the early '90s, is a perfect model for the open world sort of thing, because it's like it's so dense with so many things to do, and there's it's very Metroidvania-esque, which is like, you know, like a Zelda game usually should be. I mean, like even Ocarina of Time and like Majora's Mask and stuff didn't really have a lot of things where, hey, once you get this item, come back here and there'll be a thing here that you can do, and the whole world is integrated like that. And it's just like, oh shit, like it's insane. Like you'll see a thing, there's, you know, and you'll be able to, so like, for instance, in the forest, there's these three little things where you have to have the bracelet to pick the rocks up or whatever, and you see this on your way in, you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna get that thing, I'll come back. So you come back, you open that up, then you realize, oh shit, well, I probably need something to get over this like gigantic set of gaps here. Well, fuck, I'll come back here. Then when you get the Pegasus boots, you have the Roc's Feather, you're like, oh shit, now I can jump over large gaps. You try that, doesn't work. Then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to probably get something later. You know, you try it a million times in vain, like I did when I was a stupid kid. And then you're like, well, I need to get something later. All right, you come back, like, at the very end of the game, or whatever, like, 5 or 6 dungeons in, when you fucking finally have the hook shot, and you can come back and finally get the thing. And it's like you see this thing before you even go to the first dungeon, and that's a thing that you're not gonna get to till like 5/8 of the way through the game, you know, or whatever. Like that's just insane. And they have stuff like this all over the place, and there's seashells that are like the Korok seeds but better. They're like way better than the Korok seeds. This is why, you know, I don't know if I'd want something like this. This is kind of what I initially had thought when somebody said to me, "Oh, they're remaking Link's Awakening." I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like in like Breath of the Wild art style, like it's 3D and you can run around and shit. But no, it's just like a remaster at this point. But you know, like that was the idea of that was like, man, that could really be insane, because this gameplay world would still hold up to something like that, I would say. Uh, Overall, because it still holds up in a 2D setting, you know, or whatnot, because I think that still really works out. I don't know if I would have wanted them to put it in 3D, but I was kind of thinking that might have happened. I don't know. It's a thought that had crossed my mind when I heard that they were remaking the game. So, you know, in like the 10 minutes before I actually watched the video or whatever. But I'm trying to think. So my point is that that's just one thing. That's one little section of a totally optional part of the game that you don't even have to do. I don't even remember if there's a heart piece there or what the fuck is there. I think it might just be rupees, actually. Yeah, I think that one might be a heart piece, but sometimes those are just rupees. Like you'll see something and you're like, well, I can't get through here, and then you like come back and it's just rupees and you're like, oh, okay, that was kind of disappointing. But like, I don't know, man. It's just like, and there's like 32 heart pieces to go and collect. It's pretty insane. There would have been more, except they relegated this. So, by the way, if you get all the heart pieces and you're like, oh, where the fuck is the final heart? Dampy has it in his new dungeon building thing, which I guess I could talk about the dungeon building thing. That was pretty cool. Neat little concept there. I think that it's definitely would set the groundwork. They're just trying things out, I think, at this point, but it's definitely going to set the groundwork for like if they ever make like a Zelda Maker. Apparently it didn't really go over well with fans or whatever, but I'd be very interested to see a game like Zelda Maker or something. I think that'd be really cool, especially within these, you know, parameters, and if you could add some certain things from other games and stuff would be pretty cool. Just like a 2D Zelda Maker. We don't need like the 3D stuff. That's fine. Just 2D is great. I mean, it would really fill in the niche of like needing 2D Zelda games. I think that's the other thing that I really like about this remake. It shows that people still really love 2D Zeldas, because the last 2D Zelda game we got, I don't want to be wrong, but I'm pretty damn sure that the last 2D Zelda game that we got was Link Between Worlds in 2013. That is 7 years ago now. That was the last 2D Zelda game. It was 7 years ago. That's insane to me. Like, that's insane. That's fucking insane. They need to make more 2D Zeldas because 2D Zelda is where it's at, man. I love 3D Zelda. I do. I really do. But there's a certain magic about the 2D ones, especially like the first one and Link Between Worlds. I think Link to the Past is pretty good, but it would be lower on my 2D Zelda list. This game obviously is very high on that 2D Zelda list. There's a certain magic about the 2D Zeldas, and they still really need to be making those. And if they're not going to make those, then make Zelda Maker so we can make those. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, let's get back to the game. So the adventure of it is really cool. There's a lot of cool characters that you meet along the way, and you definitely get to meet a lot of those through the trading side quest. So there's like an animal village. There's like a hippo that's like a what do you call it? Like a fucking like a, she's a model hippo or whatever, but she's like sexually drawn or whatever. That they had to like edit that out of the fucking, what was it, like the German version or something, had the uncensored version. I don't remember what it was even censored. I don't know. It was really dumb. Hippo tits or something? I don't fucking know. But it wasn't sexy anyway. But my point is, I don't know why I brought that up. Anyway. So there's characters like that. I mean, that's not something you can say about most games, is there's a character that's a hippo, and they had to put a bra and panties on her to censor her hippo tits. It's not something you can say about most games. But there's these like, you know, you gotta remember, this is kind of before the internet was like super big. There was no walkthroughs and all that. I mean, they were very less common. But there's telephone stations throughout the world, and there's like this guy in the initial town there, and if you go and talk to him there, he's just like, oh, call me on the phone, and then like, you know, you call him from everywhere else, and he's like really energetic, and he'll talk to you, and he'll give you hints and stuff. I think that's like really cool. That's really neat. They have the I mean, obviously, Marin and Terran are like great characters. They're a lot of fun. Even the shopkeep guy, like, you know, if you try to steal from him, it's the coolest thing. Like, obviously I did this everyone did this back in the day. I didn't do it this time. But, if you steal his stuff, there's a way you can, like, walk behind him and walk out the door and steal everything, and then I'll be like, guess what? You got that for free. You're an asshole. And then when you come in the next time, he'll, like, Sith lightning you, Palpatine you to death, which is, like, the best. I should have done that just to see how it would look on this one, but I didn't want to be called Thief the whole time. They actually rename your name in the game. It's Thief, like capital letters, Thief, which is pretty funny. But I always used to steal the bow because it's 980 rupees. But and my point is, so there's a lot of really interesting and unique characters spread throughout the world and stuff, and you get to meet them all along your quest, which is really cool. And so, like, yeah, so that's just cool. I just thought that was cool. The world in general is great. Like I was saying, it was very good for adventuring and whatnot. It's always fun to discover new places and be like, oh, how do I get to that thing? How do I get across this gap? Or how do I pass these boulders or whatever, these specific type of like roadblocks or whatever. So it's always fun to put those pieces together in your head. About what item, or just possibly dreaming up what item I could even possibly need to get through these things. Like, that's pretty crazy, you know. I love that kind of stuff. Let's see, what else? So I wanted to talk about the seashells, because that's a really cool, like, side quest. They're spread throughout the world. They're like the Korok seeds, except way more better done. Because there's only 50 of them, and the world accounts for the density. They're strewn like everywhere throughout the world. I thought a really cool touch on this one is that they gave you a thing that would like vibrate and like make a little thing when you got near stuff. They had a compass, like it was kind of like the compass in the dungeons, The compass was kind of new this time too. They did a similar thing with the compass, but in the original there was a little jingle that would play when you walked into a room, um, with the compass in the dungeon. If you had the compass, that would like tell you that there was an item in there that you would want to get and stuff. But I thought it was cool how the seashells are formatted throughout the world, and you get them for doing different things. You get them for just kind of exploring and looking around, and they all felt really well implemented. And they get you a heart piece. They get you the master sword, basically, which is pretty cool. Or like whatever the equivalent is. It's like the second level sword or third level if you have the male, which I'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, they were just really well implemented overall. I thought that the color dungeon, especially back in the day, but the color dungeon was a really cool thing about it because, you do this dungeon and it's kind of one of the more interesting dungeons. It's all based on colors and stuff, and it's one of the more puzzle-oriented dungeons in the entire thing. So I thought that was cool because at the end of it, you fight a few bosses. When you finally get to the end of it and you fight the final boss in that dungeon, it's a completely optional and just hidden dungeon that's like in the graveyard, and you only know about it like if you go to the library and knock down a book, and it'll tell you how to like rearrange certain gravestones to like find it. It's like a really interesting like hidden dungeon. Like that's crazy. You wouldn't even have to know about it, but it's cool if you do find out about it. Because at the end of it, there's actually you can get a blue set of mail or a red set of mail, just like in the original first Zelda. Which is really cool. I mean, you get them in Ocarina of Time again, but they're not the same. They boost your attack or they boost your defense. You get to choose. Most people choose to boost attack, and I can sort of agree with that. I probably should have gone with that this time, but I always use the defense one just because I like that more. It's a lot more helpful in making me die less. I don't know. So I thought that was cool. That's a really cool dungeon. I guess I'll talk about the dungeons in general. They kind of progress to getting harder and harder as you go along, and more brain teasing and whatnot. And I think they're really well done for the most part. Even the later dungeons that I remember being kind of frustrated with and not really liking as much as a kid, or teenager or whatever, when I actually finally got to this, because as a kid, I never really got past the 6th dungeon, I believe, the face shrine. I didn't even really remember doing that much as a kid. I vaguely remember doing that as a kid. I think that I did actually get there, but I never got to the 7th dungeon as a kid. So that took me until high school to get there. So when I finally got there, and those are pretty tough dungeons. I couldn't even, like, the 5th and 6th dungeons were tough for me as a kid. Like, fuck, the 7th and 8th dungeons would have, like, blown my mind. And I could have probably found a walkthrough back then, because they were a lot more prevalent by that point. But yeah, I mean, like, it's kind of crazy how much of a jump they do on those last few dungeons, and they're really really great dungeons, I would say, overall. This is kind of like the pinnacle of 2D Zelda dungeons. There's a lot of cool mechanics in there. Like the first dungeon is kind of a good introductory dungeon. They give you the Rock's Feather. They teach you about the jumping over gaps and whatnot, and that's cool. And it's a pretty easy dungeon, but it's just easy going, and it's a lot of fun. Then you get to the second dungeon. Second dungeon's the one where you get the power bracelet, and it's more about, they teach you about the switch things that like lower and raise the colored platform things, and so they teach you about that, and then they also get you to use the magical bracelet a little bit, so you can kind of figure out how that works, and you even have to use it to beat the boss in there. And then third dungeon, you get there, and the whole thing is the Pegasus boots, so it's all about speed and whatnot. I will say one thing about, sorry, a little interlude there. The Pegasus boots animation in this game was pretty weak compared to the original. In the original, you really felt it. You felt like you were, like, running and it had a better noise and everything. In this game, it was a little underwhelming. It didn't. You just didn't feel it quite as much. I just want to say that. But anyway, the Pegasus boots. It's built around that. And the one thing I didn't like about that dungeon is that they changed the boss a little bit to you have to like attack both sides of his eyes, and then at a certain point, then you go through him. I'm pretty sure in the original you just kept slashing, and when you got to that point, then you had to plow through him or whatever. It just was a little bit easier. I don't know. So that was a little bit annoying, but that's a pretty good dungeon overall. The fourth one is all about the flippers. Finally, you get the flippers. You've been seeing water the entire game, and and I could say this about all the other dungeons too, but especially to this point, then you've been seeing water the entire game. There's little ladders leading down into the water, and you realize, well, shit, I can't go in there. And if you played Link to the Past at that point, you'd be like, I need to get the flippers. Where am I going to get the flippers? And Link to the Past is a completely like side quest thing you had to like go and do. But in this game, it's just in the dungeon, and the whole dungeon is kind of built around water, and you can only go to certain areas and stuff with shallow water and stuff, and then you finally figure it out, and you finally get to these flippers, and it's just liberating. It opens up like the whole world. It's kind of like getting the boat in a Dragon Quest game. You just, holy shit, now I can go all these places and do all these things and stuff. And that's kind of your last like really big thing until you get the hook shot, of course, in the next dungeon. And then I thought the anglerfish was a cool boss. It's like you're in one of the side-scrolling things, but you're fighting a boss. It's like that's insane. There's little side-scrolling bits put in here, by the way, which is kind of crazy. Like that's a thing they haven't done since. That's insane. Like what the fuck? Like that's crazy. Like and seen that's in Zelda too. Well, then CDI games, but we're not talking about that. So we're not talking about those. Those aren't technically canon. So. Yeah, I mean, I just thought that was cool. And then, so it's a cool dungeon. The anglerfish, the boss, is like actually in, like a side-scrolling thing. So you do a side-scrolling boss fight underwater, no less, which is great. I just thought that was really cool. And then the fifth the fifth dungeon is like, it's all about the hook shot. And I remember, toiling and troubling to try to find the hook shot, and they don't give it to you until really late into the dungeon, as far as I remember, and then it just kind of opens up the whole dungeon, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, you're just running around trying to find this hook shot, and then you finally get it. It's cool because there's like this it's kind of like the Pirate's Fortress, where there's a thing like a skeleton like knight guy that you have to like keep fighting in each of these rooms, and each one is like labeled on the floor like in sequence of where you're gonna fight him and whatnot, so you just kind of keep going to each of those and like running around the dungeon trying to find the next one and stuff. It was really cool. It's a cool dungeon. And then it's cool once you finally have the hook shot, you can pretty much go anywhere in the world for the most part, aside of a few little story things that you can't really kind of get to without the magic chicken before the magic cuckoo before the seventh dungeon or whatever. But yeah, and then the sixth dungeon you get the better magical gauntlet thing, so you can pick up like really big statues. So that's kind of cool. It, like really didn't really amount to a whole lot, but it's still cool anyway. It's a pretty cool dungeon. They have the dungeons are kind of callbacks kind of to the originals as well. That's kind of where you fight the Wizrobes for the first time, and that's kind of like in the original Zelda where Wizrobes get introduced in like the fifth or sixth dungeon kind of thing. So that's pretty cool. That's another thing I really like about this game. I guess I won't really talk that much about the other two dungeons. I don't know. Like I said, I want to spoil the whole thing, so I'll just say they were cool. And they get more complicated later and stuff, so I thought that was great. But God, I lost it. What was I just gonna talk about? Fuck no! Oh, I lost it. Damn it. I don't even know what I was gonna say. Shit. I'm gonna watch this later and just be like, no, you should have talked about that thing, you stupid dumbass. I don't know, whatever. So, yeah. No, I mean, that's, uh, I don't know, I was trying to think of what I was trying to say earlier a minute ago. But, yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Without spoiling, like, the ending and stuff. I don't really want to talk about that. But there's, like, the trading side quest, that's cool. There's a lot of little side quests like that. There's one where you, like, help a ghost get back to his grave and his house and stuff. That was pretty cool. It was a nice little side quest. There's stuff like that strewn throughout the entire world, and it's densely, like, riddled throughout. There's, like, no one square on this game where, like, it just doesn't matter or whatever. Like, you know, like, even in the original Zelda, there wasn't, like, every square didn't matter. I mean, most of them did, but you can't necessarily say that about, especially like Breath of the Wild. Like every square matters, you know. It's like, does it though? You know, like, but no. In here, every square actually fucking matters, and it's always fun to explore. And okay. So I like about the trading side quest. I like how it's kind of a story that's strewn throughout the game, and you can only do bits at certain times, and you even have to kind of do it to progress some parts in the game, like like the castle thing with the monkey and all that. So I thought that was just really well integrated, how they have like little stories in there, and it kind of builds characters and stuff. That's a really efficient way of doing that. And there's just little mini games everywhere. Like there's a fishing mini game, which is pretty cool. There's like a raft mini game that's pretty awesome. There's like mini games everywhere. The game is just loaded with all sorts of crazy content, and especially for its time, that was just really, you know, innovative and unique. It's really, really cool. I just think it's just a really good game. You know, I don't know what else to say about it. Really, it's really good, and you should definitely play it if you haven't, because it's like amazing, especially if you like 2D Zeldas and you haven't played it. I don't know what the fuck other 2D Zeldas you were playing, but you should play this one because it's really good. Is it worth $60? Probably not, but I mean, get it when it never goes on sale. I don't know, it probably won't ever go on sale, but I don't know. It's like the game is like, so I did it in like 20 hours. I'm sure it would take the general player, if they wanted to do everything, it might take them like 30 or so hours. But I actually did it all, well, that's not technically true. I did sleep for 8 hours in between there. But I made it all the way to the 8th dungeon, and halfway through the 8th dungeon, all in one 20-hour sitting. And then I sat here and played the rest of it. The music is ending, so I have to get through on this. Well, we'll just listen to the original if I have more things to say. Because the original is actually better. Actually, let's just get that going. Let's just do the original. I mean, I won't talk for too much longer, but just to kind of give you a little comparison of the music there. But shoot, let's see. Yeah, this is fine. Why not? Let's do this. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a really good game overall. I would say definitely pick it up at some point if you can get the chance to. You know, just like, or if you don't want to play this version, just play the original because the original is still great. You know, I mean, it's a little old school, but I mean, if you played Zelda 1 recently, it's a lot better than that, gameplay wise. So there's just something really nostalgic about the original too, even though I can't speak on that unbiasedly, but I don't know. I feel like that's how it would come off to like an old school gamer, you know, is they could definitely pick up on the 8-bit nostalgia of that. Listen to this. This is so much better. You don't need the little flute. You need that. You need the little swing sound effect. Like, that's amazing. That's what you want right there. This is the tits, you know? That's what I'm talking about right there. Like, this is amazing. You don't fuck with this, you know? But they did. They fucked with it to make it more cutesy, which is like, okay, whatever. Fuck you guys. Miyamoto, your bullshit. I don't know. Miyamoto probably had nothing to do with this game. And just the game is so creative. I don't want to. I won't spoil it. I don't know. Whatever. Fuck it. Just in case. Especially if you want to play it now. It wasn't one of the more played Zelda games. I mean, it wasn't like unpopular or anything. I wouldn't say. I would say it's a more hidden gem amongst the Zelda series. I don't think as many people kind of played it. I think even Majora's Mask is more exposed at this point than fucking Link's Awakening. I remember when Majora's Mask was the black sheep, and now, like, not that this is the black sheep, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. So, I just mean, like, it's great. You should play it. For me, like, the original especially is like a 10 out of 10 kind of game. This one, like, it's really high. It's gotta be like a 9.7 or something. Like, I don't want to give it a 10 because I did have some little nitpicks with it, but I did play it for 20 hours straight, so there must be something good going on there. Is my thought process on that. But yeah, I really love it. I think it's like one of my favorite games of all time. So, it's got great music, great characters. It's a very creative world, a very well implemented world. The sound design is just great because it's like, here's the thing, like, so you hear this, right? This is like how, you're initially starting off, and to this point, I mean, you heard maybe the title screen music, but when you get the sword, there's no better feeling, especially in the original, like when it's da 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 da. And he didn't do this in the remake either, so 0 points on the remake there. He did the whooshing, and then you go on your adventure. You have the sword, da 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 dun da 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 da, and you get the music kicks in, and it's just like, I still remember that. I still remember that moment. I don't know if it's necessarily tied to when I was a kid or whatever, but like, I remember probably when I was a kid, that moment. I remember the moment absolutely when I got the game again later on, or some moment when I played it later on again, or just even, I really love that moment when you get the sword and the music kicks in and it's just the perfect feeling, and you're like, oh fuck yeah, this adventure has started, motherfuckers, let's go and do this. And then you play the game and it's awesome, it's just so good. Such a good game. Gameplay still holds up. I mean, you're gonna have maybe a few problems here and there if you haven't played the game before, but that's alright. Little things here and there. It'll be alright though. You'll get through it. Yeah, graphics are fine. You can get either version. I would say that the remake, if you're really looking to experience that, that's probably the better way to go, because you got the extra buttons or whatever. But if you want a more old school experience, you can just play the original too. That's good. I would recommend the DX version because they don't have it here because it's, because they had to, that's just like a little piece in the game. But no, still, this is great. Anyway, get the DX version because it has the color dungeon. Definitely play it on like a Game Boy Advance SP or something, or on anything that's not just the original Game Boy. That way you can actually tell colors and whatnot. Or the Game Boy Pocket, I guess. Don't play it on there or whatever, but you know what I'm saying. So, yeah, great game overall. 10 for the original, 9.7 or whatever for the remake. It's really good. You should play it. I definitely recommend it. Yeah, go for it. So, I want to quickly talk about my memories. I mean, it's not really, I don't really have that many memories. I mean, I have some, but so back in the day, obviously, like I was saying, I was a very big fan of Link's Awakening, the original game, one of my favorite games. And then in I don't know, whenever the fuck this game came out, somebody was playing it, and out of the blue, and I was at daycare or something, after school, and somebody was playing it, my other friend John, actually, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck is this? Is this I was looking at it, and I'm like, this looks just like Link's Awakening. And he didn't know what Link's Awakening was, but I was telling him about it, and I'm like, is that Zelda? And he's like, yeah, it's Zelda. It's Oracle of Seasons or whatever. I'm like, holy shit, what? There's another, they made another 2D Zelda game on the Game Boy? And I was losing my mind. Like, I had to get this, like, as soon as I, like, realized that this existed. This is a sequel to one of my favorite games of all time. And of course they had, Oracle of Seasons too. This is actually my original box that I got back in the day. It's very beat up, but, you know, it is what it is. I still have the box. That's what I kind of care about. I don't still have my original cartridge from back in the day. This cartridge is the one that I got in high school when I was beating them, so this is still... I mean, I never had this game back in the day. I had the guide for it. I had the Choose Your Own Adventure guidebook for it, but this one, yeah, I just had to get, like, online. Like, this is one of the first things I kind of bought online, really. I actually got my dad to buy it online before I started using eBay and stuff. I remember that. But, yeah, so, this is my original, like, cartridge of that. Oh, I never had to rebuy this one again, and it's in really nice shape, I would say. Oh, other than that, it works fine. I promise. I've played through the game, though. But I don't know when I got this one. Actually, I kind of remember when I got this one. Must have been... Oh, fuck. This must have been from Disc Replay later on. I think it was $10, which is a really good price. It's a little scuffed on the label there. It's a little off, but for $10, I mean... This is a great game, you know. And, you know, honestly, I have a lot of memories of playing Seasons as a kid. Because that's the one that my friend had, and that's the one that I really wanted. I didn't really know Ages was a thing. Like I said, I had like a little guidebook or whatever. But, I don't know. I didn't care quite as much about Ages. Seasons was kind of my jam. Back then, and it had a lot of the characters from like Ocarina of Time and like Majora's Mask and stuff. I thought, oh man, that is so cool that they have like, I don't know, just like Tingle and a bunch of those characters in there. Like that's amazing, you know. That's just so cool that they like integrated. And I had played those games by that point, and it was really cool to me that those characters were in there, you know. And I'm like, it's so cool. And then you know, you got the Seasons mechanic. But my point is, it's a very similar game. It's one of the only other games other than Ages and whatever that has like the Rock's Feather. It has all those items, those Link's Awakening isms. You know, they're all here. This is like the sequel version of that, and it's so cool. And I really do want to replay these at some point. I tried to, starting with Ages, but it's just a roadblock because Ages has like. I don't remember where I saw somebody talking about it, but Ages has more of the puzzles and stuff, so it's just kind of a slog to get through some of it. And Seasons is more like of the action kind of gameplay wise. It has puzzles on its own and stuff with the whole thing. And I thought it was a really elegant way to kind of extend the world like density thing, is that you would have these stumps everywhere where you would change the seasons, and you know, it's a whole way to still make the world very dense. It kind of took the Link's Awakening mentality and put it to a bigger world and added a bunch of stuff, which is just kind of crazy. Point being, the only reason I'm talking about these right now, without talking about them, you know, later, maybe I'll talk about them if I ever like replay through them or whatever. But these games need the treatment. Put them into one game, please. But well, knowing Nintendo, they won't do that. But just package them together, put them on Switch, and there you go, guys. That's another $60 you can rake out of me, or $80 or whatever. I don't fucking care. I'll play it, and then let the people choose which one they want to play first. And then, if you didn't know, once you play through these games, you get a password. They can just simplify that and just make it the save file or whatever work or whatever. They don't have to make another password thing. You do away with passwords, but then all the content from the first one that you play goes into the next one, like they did. And put them together, make it a collection. That would be awesome, you know? Fucking just do it. Just do it. Please. We need these remade in this style. You know, you don't necessarily have to go with this art style again, but you can. I mean, if you do, that's fine. The art style is fine. It'll work. So if you do it like this, and you just remaster them, put them, directly like you did with Link's Awakening, that'd be an A+ for me. Hey, think about this. You want to sell your dungeon design Zelda maker thing. You had very limited options here in Link's Awakening. They were fine. It was well done. I mean, you can make some interesting dungeons with that. But twice the games, lots of crazy dungeons, lots of crazy mechanics for your dungeons, season mechanics, age mechanics, there you go, man. I mean, these can make for some pretty crazy dungeons all together here. I'm just saying. I'm not telling you. I'm just telling you how to make money, Nintendo. Because make these, all right. Put these out. Have Grezzo or whatever get on it, and just a little idea for you there. Please remake these. I really, really, really need these because this went so well. This would be amazing. This would be so much more content too, because there's so much more content here than there is here. Even though this has a good amount of content, I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying, you can rush through this game in less than 20 hours if you're going for the main story. Don't do that, by the way. If you're gonna go through the game, make it a Majora's Mask experience where you kind of experience mostly everything, because then you'll really get a lot more out of the game, I would say. Spend some time doing the side quest things or whatever. Everyone's favorite song. They ruined it, though. Actually, you know what? I want to say this. Everyone hates this fucking, when you get the little power-ups or whatever. I think the original was better. I think the new one was annoying. This one was a lot better. Listen to it. It's like, it's a jam. It's like... And the new one's like, it's just kind of annoying sounding. Like, I don't know. That was another one of the little musical things that kind of didn't go over so hot. But anyway, Link's Awakening, great game, very cool world, great characters, great story. Everything's great about it. It's just great. Just go pick it up. Go buy it now. Get it. $60. It's worth it. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth $60. Is it worth it to you? That's the question. It's a short game, so if you can get it for less, that's great. If not, spend the $60. I don't fucking know. If you're cheap, go buy the $10 Game Boy version. There you go. You got it. And then you can buy these $10 Game Boy versions too, and play through those, because those are great. And I mean, Season's a little better than Ages. Ages, I don't think is quite as good as Seasons. I think Ages has a lot of problems in terms of its puzzles and whatnot. Just get really confusing, and kind of the dungeons are just a little too heady for my liking. I think that Seasons is the right balance of that. But they add a lot of really cool items in these games too. These are really great. You got to go experience these. These are where it's at, man. And of course, Link's Awakening. So I don't want to get it going any longer. This is probably already super fucking long as is. Hopefully not 2 hours long. But until next time, this has been JZNES saying keep it classic and stick around for more reviews, underrated games, and I'll see you guys in the next one. JZ